Hi, I'm Seamless, and this is the third 75K tutorial. This one was requested by jimjimvalkema, and it is a Noisia sound. And oh boy, the track name is a little intense. It's the track Nothing Matters. It's Noisia's remix of the track Nothing Matters by Mark Knight featuring Skin. And the original sound sounds like this. And while I didn't nail it, this is what I got. Oh, that's embarrassing right there. Like that direct comparison. But I actually tried this before in a previous K tutorial videos. Either it was in the 30 or 40K. Might have been in the 20K. But the last attempt didn't even approach the sound like at all. And this is the one that actually got pretty close. I kind of get what the parts are of this. It's just that I don't know how to put it together in a way that makes it sound like that. If you look at the Edison spread of this, which it's not even in there, let's put this back in the thing. Thank you. If you look at the Edison spread here, you can see the telltale sign of the two parts that I think this is. You can see that there's a big noise hit here, and then a sort of another noise hit here, and they seem somewhat separate from the bandpass lowness. So this is what led me to believe that it was two separate things. I don't think it's actually noise. It might actually be noise. I didn't try to make it noise. I made it really, really unison-y saw wave and high passed it and then did a whole bunch of stuff to it. Now, as far as actual modulation, this is the part that I don't really understand yet. The last time I came close to getting this style down of this kind of like this sort of phased out high frequency business was in a drum and bass experiment a long time ago, where one of the guys from Evil Intent came on and actually told me how that was done. And it was, it involves rendering it out and then doing manual unison on the audio. And then this is what happens to it. And that's sweet. I didn't do that. And I tried to mimic it using a flanger. And I'm automating a flanger to try and sort of to mimic that result. I also have this is why I like using the Edison for this kind of thing, because you can see some useful things. So for example, you can see the phaser and how that works out, how it kind of moves differently on these particular ones. This, I actually think this is the sample gets pitched down or something, because it's not, I don't know that it's moving with the bandpass thing on top of it. So the bandpass thing and this thing are kind of like two different deals. And like, I also didn't really nail the reverb profile, or even like what the filter is, but you can kind of see how there's like this filter that comes up here, comes down here, and then it comes down here again. Like this is probably just, actually I guess it's not the same sample again, but this filter is just a notch, so I try to put a notch in that kind of general area. You can see how like this kind of oval gets cut out of what would be like two solid pillars. That's basically a filter in on that. So like that. The yeet kind of sound is that essentially a notch closing from having cut off everything to bring it in together. Either that, or this is a low pass, a high pass on this and a low pass on this to match the two together. And like that kind of relationship between the two things, it could totally have been a single thing. It's just that I have no idea how to create something that would act like that as a single thing. But like this is, you can see sort of how it's built, and that's what determined the majority of my decisions. The rest of it were just me trying to brute force it because what I was getting wasn't working out. The other thing is that the general usage of like Reese's in a Noisia song I haven't particularly nailed super well. And it is historically known to be through a lot of resampling, but not the kind of resampling that I do, which dramatically changes the sound every time, but enough of so subtle resampling that causes it to be phased out a bit over time. Or maybe a little bit of the stuff I do as well, given that that kind of almost growly, talky nature that is clearly beyond a regular bandpass modulation can be achieved in a number of ways. And the way that I attempted to try here is that I put on a phaser inside the original harmonic, which causes these little striations in the thing, which are kind of like what happens when you get phase cancellation, which is why the phaserness looks, or the flanger works the way that it does for this particular purpose, but given that the original source would have been resampled manually. Facebook, there's a lot of different ways to approach the same result. It's just that the particular one, since I'm not even good at whatever the original method is, but mine are going to be different, and I'm not good enough to know how to shore it up. But this is enough of the concept that if this is something that you are good at, I'm confident that if you take this information and run with it, you could probably make this sound. And that's why this is useful. So let's talk about the bandpass part. It's almost there. So big unison on 2 different layers, just creating a big cloud of sound. Both of them have phase randomness on, and one of them has the prism on just a little bit. And they're both being distorted with a bit of a mix in there, so there's undistorted and distorted sound in there. Just a big kind of blur, but still controlled enough that you can get a note out of it. Because you can go too far, and it stops being like a tone and not enough of an actual like sound that you can use on things. What else is important? I did change the harmonic unison pitch profile. In the first one, anyway. This is, again, to further convolute the higher end, even though most of that gets low passed out. But it involves itself in the distortion enough that it affects kind of the overall outcome. This gets band passed. I also got a big old boost here and here to kind of like bring back the higher end. I did that after all this stuff. It gets distorted, and then it gets kind of shaped, gets reverbed, and then it gets distorted again super duper lightly, and then it gets compressed along with the noisy stuff. So the noisy stuff sort of there, you know. I'm not as up on how to deal with that. Maybe there's actually like real noise layered in there, but the smoothness. I didn't. One day I'll focus on trying to do the actual manual audio resampling as was suggested to me by the people who would know about this kind of stuff, and I'll do a better job than what I just did here. But same kind of deal. I have a phaser on to give it just some shit happening. It's got a lot more unison than usual. Than the other guys, a lot more of the high frequency stuff and a bigger blur, because I really just kind of want this to be noisy, and so I also removed the lower harmonic a bit, and this because when this gets distorted together, it is being distorted a lot. Without the lower harmonic in there, it doesn't impart sort of the right tone. You know what I mean? It doesn't like. I mean, the lower harmonic is the other guy still there. Basically saying that if you do that and it gets a little too round, it's because there's too much low in the distortion. So I removed the low end of the distortion, and then I think I used this to high pass it, but I brought back the high pass because it was too high and not enough tone was remaining. And this super steep ultra distortion, which fuzzes it up even harder. And then the flanger. So the flanger is being automated, the depth is being automated, the delay's all the way off, the phase is almost off, or all the way off, the feed's almost all the way off. So it's giving it a very, not even really that big of an impact. But if I have to feed a bit, that's what happens to it. So it's not really super wonderful. I am automating the depth. It doesn't look like it's moving because that's a sort of a thing that happens to Patcher. I have a little bit of the dry in there as well, just because it was a little too intense. And there's this big old filter with a whole bunch of stuff going on that I tried to emulate. Remember that filter in the middle with the big oval thing? I tried to do that by just doing it manually with a EQ, and like didn't really do a good job. You could what you could do to make that sound work is to do a high pass and a low pass opposite each other, as opposed to a high pass low pass. It creates basically a band pass. It's the opposite, where it's a high pass and low pass that open and closes in the center. That's a 2 filter thing with a layer, and like it is basically because I'm lazy that I didn't do that. But that's how you would do that if you wanted to do it directly like that. Thing is, I think it was trying to react with the movement of the bandpass section, and that kind of like concert existence is something that I haven't really super nailed. And there's that notch moving around doing its thing. I have a volume automation on top of all of this to give it that hit kind of feel that it has whenever it hits on the ends and that kind of thing. And then reverb, and then it goes into distortion, and then it all comes together to be. Yeah. So the fundamentals of this are there. It's just that I'm lacking the knowledge of things that I've been neglecting for years. Mostly the whole resampling, the manual resampling, phasing business of recorded samples. That's a lot about what this is. So yeah, I mean, this is a lot closer than what I did the first time I did this. So I guess there's progress. Maybe when I do the 100K tutorials, I'll have learned how to do this by then. I'll do another one like it. Anyway, I'll put up this FLP for download without the sample because that would be illegal. And if you would like to make a request, please go do so in the Reddit thread. Any requests made anywhere else will be ignored. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And as usual, have a nice day. Yeah, did the thing right.